So, Bullseye, are you enjoying yourself? Huh? Do you like that laying there? You look pretty comfortable. Hey YouTube, I showed you this stack of molding I had last night. I added 4 more pieces to it this morning. It's been raining and not doing anything outside today, but I just wanted to make some comments or answer some comments here. First of all, when you make molding, especially if you're going to resell it, you want to use the clearest wood that you can find. Now you can see that I've made molding out of stuff like this. Is a pretty big defect. I can't use that for anything, that little piece there. However, the pieces next to it I can use for under windowsills and along the molding for the tops of windows and doors, pieces. So that's why I continue to run it through the mill or through the molding cutter to be able to get whatever molding I can get out of it, because 90% of everything you make is going to be cut. Nothing is used in its whole state except for maybe crown molding, and you still got to cut a little angle on that as well. But I had some questions about why plane it down to size and stuff. First of all, when you use a molding cutter, you can try and cut the molding in one step, but chances are you won't get it under the infeed roller. Okay, so what you want to do is try and make as few steps as you can. So if you get yourself a pattern made, you can use the guide here. So when I cut this molding, what I do is I go down to 1.5 inches, okay, I run the molder through, and then I bring that back up. After I run it through there, I bring it back up to 1.25 inches. Alright, I had gotten some questions about running. Why do I plane the wood before I put it through the molding cutter, and about cutting the width of it. Well, first of all, if you want good precise molding, you have to have good precise wood to start off with. So if the wood is cut to size, especially if it's been planed, when you start to make molding, you'll put the board in, you'll look at your thing. Now what I do is I set it at 1.5 inches, this black scale over here. I first do the first cut at 1.5 inches, and after I make that cut, I'll raise the table and do the next cut at 1.25 inches, and that finishes the molding off for me. If I had different thicknesses of wood, I would have to be adjusting that table different ways in order to get it to go through the infeed rollers. So that's part of the problem with getting a system set up. You can't do a lot of any one thing if you don't have a system. So my system is to get the wood as close as I can to 3/4 inch thick, 2.5 inches wide, and go from there. Now I don't make it perfect, but I get it as close as I can. You can see that end of this board down there wasn't planed. So I'll put this in with that facing up, and the molding head will cut that thing down to about 1/2 inch on the edge at that one side, and it'll be a little bit thicker on the other. The point is that the better the boards are, the closer they are to what you need, the better the molding you're going to get. And if you run boards through that are rough sawn, the rough sawn edge has a tendency to grab a hold of the feed guide here. So, I mean, obviously you can see the paint's wore off of that already. You've only used it 2 days. So if you let molding hit the edge of, or let the wood hit the edge of this, sooner or later there'll be burrs on it that are going to stop it from going through. Stopping that from going through affects the infeed rollers, it affects the cutters, it affects the breaker in the panel box. So this is why you want to make things as closely as you can to run them through. The other thing is, as far as ripping the boards down, somebody had said to rip the board into 2.5 inches and run it through the planer, it would be faster. I don't know if it's faster. It's easier on the planer to put a 2.5 inch board than it is an 8 inch board. However, if I put an 8 inch board through, I've gotten 3 boards out of an 8-inch board, 3 2.5-inch pieces out of an 8-inch board, as opposed to one 1x4. So personally, I'd rather plane an 8-inch board, take a little longer, but I have 3 identical thickness boards, and now that I only have to rip them down. The other question then was about ripping them. I have a small table saw here that I take with me on different jobs that I do. And yes, you can rip it down on the table saw, and it is easier to rip it on the table saw if you have any deviation in the boards as far as straightness goes, because the footprint of the blade is roughly, that's a 10-inch blade there. That footprint to cut 3/4-inch boards is probably 6-8 inches long. So you can actually push a slightly bent board through, you can put a slightly bent board through a table saw better than you can cut it on the wood miser. But you have to do one at a time. On the wood miser, I can cut 20 1x at a time. So, you know, that's what I do. It depends on what the wood looks like. If the wood is warped at all, in other words, like say this end would come over this direction, I can put that through the table saw because the footprint on the table saw allows me to push a bent board through there. Now I'm not talking about something bent like a pretzel, I'm just saying with a little bend or bow in it. That can go through the table saw. But if you try to do that on the wood miser, you're going to end up with a lot of waste. It all depends on the board. If the boards are nice and straight when I pull them out of the kiln, I'll set them right on the wood miser and cut them. If they are not straight, that's where the problem comes in. Okay, you can have a problem trying to get you have a problem trying to salvage that 2.5 inches, 3 boards out of a 1x8 if the 1x8's not straight. And you don't have, all wood is not straight. It's the nature of wood. You just have to know what to do with it when it's not straight. And that's what I do. So anyway, that answers those couple of questions on why I do what I do. And again, I don't care what you do. You can do whatever you want. As far as building all kind of tables and stuff to save myself steps, listen, I don't care about walking. Walking is good for me. It helps me to lose weight, and I could stand to lose weight. Actually, all of us should be exercising. But the point is I don't care about walking back and forth. That doesn't bother me at all. Okay guys, so we're at the planer, the molder I should say. It is a planer, but when you have it set to cut molding, it's a molder. Okay, so what you're at here is you're looking at 3/4 of an inch, and that's right on there, and 2.5 inches. Okay, and that's right on. So this board has previously been cut 2.5 and planed down to 3/4 inch thickness. So it's only a short piece that I have here just to give you an idea of how this works. So 3/4 by 2.5, and what we're going to do is we're going to keep it to that side. Alright, so I'm going to run this through the planer, and I want it to stay against that guide on that side. Now as it goes through, it'll sort of find its way, because once the infeed roller grabs a hold of it, it does keep it running fairly straight. So, but I like to keep it against the guide, especially if the board has a bend in it. Sometimes you'll see the boards are like this. You know, if it's an up and down bend, it doesn't really matter. It's when something goes to the side. And if you think that you're going to find all perfectly straight boards like this, 8 foot long, good luck with that. You're going to have to learn to be able to work with pieces in order to be able to get, you know, the 8-foot pieces and the bends and stuff. You're going to have to learn to be able to work with them to be able to get your molding cut for yourself. So anyway, then we're going to set the molder, and this was from previously doing it. We're going to set this at 1.5, okay, and then we're going to run it through, and then we're going to set it at 1.25 and run it through, and you'll see what happens. left on the bottom, and it's got half of the profile on there. So then what we do is we raise the table up to 1 1/4 and run it through a second time. Or if it doesn't take it right away, it's because you're a little higher than you ought to be with the molder. So if you take it down a little, it'll take the molding by itself. And sometimes you have to run it through more than 2 times to get it to do what you need it to do. So we're going to come right up to 1 1/4 there. Okay guys, so I'm going to show you how I do this. I have the molder set at 1 1/2 down, okay? And what I'm going to do is run this through 1 time, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like, and then I'll run it through again after adjusting the head and show you what that looks like. So I'm against the fence on that side. I have part of the profile cut, and I have this edge left. Now this little edge that's on here, I actually like having that on there, right here. I like having that little edge on here because it gives me something to put against the fence. Otherwise I would be putting the molding against the fence, and that sort of changes where it enters the cutter. It won't enter the cutter at the same place. So it's kind of like you cut down so far, watch what you're doing, and then you'll be able to use that edge, and then it'll lose it on the next cut. So we're going to raise the table up to 1 1/4, use that edge along the guide. You can do that by lifting up on the board a little bit. Let the inside roller grab it. I don't know if you could hear me with all the noise there, but what I was saying is, when you start the board in, now you have a square board or a rectangular board 3/4 of an inch by 2.5 inches. So you want to hug that fence over there as you go in. So you enter this, and when you cut it, you end up with a little lip on this edge and this edge. Now this is scrap, I'm not using this, but I'm just demonstrating. So you end up with a little lip along here, and that lip is good if you can keep it on there. If you go too far, you lose the lip right away. The problem is if the cutter didn't go all the way through the wood and you lose the one lip, you don't know where on here to put it again, okay? And if you make these too close, you're really too close to the cutters, and I don't like being that close. I'd rather have one fence to follow, which is this one. So anyway, when you come back, if you have the lip on, you know that that basically goes against the fence. This way here, if you put this back on here, it's going to cut the molding even more on this one side and not on the other. So you're actually shrinking the size of the molding. The problem with that is it looks nice. You can't really tell the difference if it's only like a 1/16 or an 1/8 until you go to make a miter. And when you put a miter across and you try and join the two pieces, you find one is bigger than the other. Now there is a way to fix that, but you know, that's not what this video's about. But anyway, this is what it looks like. This is how you do it. Not a lot to it. Let me just show you the molder here a little bit. I want to turn this down. Yeah, this Grizzly, it's a 1037. I like this. I mean, it wasn't really expensive. It was $1,000, which, yes, it's a lot of money if you're not going to do what I'm doing with it. I mean, I wouldn't spend $1,000 for this, although if I wanted molding I would. I wouldn't spend $1,000 for this planer if I wasn't going to cut molding. You know, I mean, what's the point? The Porter cable has proven itself very well. But what I'm after here is just to show you what you got. You put this bedboard down so you don't hit the metal with the cutters. You can see there's 2 little gouges in the table there. That's from the actual cutters themselves. Now the cutters, I don't know if you can see where my thumb is there, but the cutter, that's the two edges of the cutter. So this is the extreme width from this side to this side on the inside of the actual cutter. Now you might be able to see the shape there. I don't know if you can see it or not. But the point is you can put a wider board in here and it'll cut the board. But what I'm getting at is this. If you notice, there's only about 3/16 between here and this metal. And if you look at this side, you'll see that I've already kissed this metal, which I wasn't too happy about, but it is what it is. So I'm keeping this guide away, okay, and I'm only using this guide to guide the molding in. So I hope you understand what I'm saying there. And these are adjustable. You just open, you just loosen the knob and you can slide them from side to side. It's not the perfect molder, but it does a darn nice job, and it's not really straining to pull the stuff through there. So I like it. I think that at this point, if it holds up, and I'm expecting this to outlast me, so if it holds up, I'm happy. If it falls apart by next year or the year after that, I'm not happy. All right, because I think something that you spend this much money for should work real well. I got to tell you, I must have bought 6 of these shop vacs in the 15 years that I've lived at this house. It's like one after the other. They just don't last. The motors fall apart in them. Now the problem with it is Shop Vac has sort of cornered the market with this. Now I don't know if it's an American company or not, but if it is, you know what? You're not doing too well. That's how I see it. Now it says Shop Vac Corporation, Williamsport, PA. I don't know if they make them there or just ship them out from there. Chances are it's probably made in China. I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not picking on the Chinese. I'm just saying that these freaking Shop Vac are junk. They only last me about 3 years, and I don't use it like I'm using this. I only use it to vacuum up, around the garage floor. I do realize that the fine dust is hard on things, but even so, I use a bag, a filter, a sponge, and still fall apart. Now this one here, my wife picked up for me today. Normally that thing I think is around $69. This was $169. Money I didn't want to have to spend, but had to have something. And the thing about this is I was reading that the motor that's in this, 6 horsepower I think it said, is equivalent to a lot of other ones, like that's a 5 horsepower, but it has a different type of a setup. It's called this SVX2 technology, which, for all I know, it could be in the label, and that's as far as they go. I'm just hoping that it lasts. But otherwise, as far as shop vacs go, they got thumbs down from me because they don't last. But anyway, we're going to see how long this one lasts. If it lasts me 5 years, then it's worth it. If it lasts me 3, it's not worth it. In fact, the warranty you can buy from Lowe's, I told my wife not to get it because it's a 3-year warranty. If the shop vacs last 3 years, which is what they appear to do, they're no good to me after that. Why have the warranty? You're spending money for nothing. So I'd rather keep the money in my pocket. I'll invest that $40 into some stock that's going to do something. Anyway, just talking. I don't want to start ranting about the shop vac. I'm upset because I had to buy it. Yeah, so I do like this Grizzly planer molder, and I think it's a good deal for $1,000. I bought a set of cutters. I don't know if I said it in a previous video. I have the colonial casing, colonial base, and crown molding. So the house is going to look pretty decorated with this type of molding in it. I also bought a tongue and groover to be able to make some paneling out of some of this wood I have. I was thinking about maybe putting wainscoting or wainscoting or whatever you want to call it on one of the walls up at the house or one of the rooms. We'll see what happens. Okay guys, so I guess I'm done for today's video. All I wanted to do today was actually clean up. So I'm going to vacuum this up, and I'll talk to you again later. Bye. Have a good one.